That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. We are about to divulge into yet another episode of this TEW simulation, and it's SATURDAY Nights main event. And I've got to say, I'm very excited. I hope you are as well. Thank you for joining once again. And let's kick this baby off right as the Steiners are going to take on Power and Pain, John Tenta and Ray Traylor, in a pre-show match. And here we have Rick Steiner, newly signed to a written contract. Scott Steiner still paper appearance. Tenta, Traylor, both written. And, I would go so far as to say these are the two, perhaps this is the lifeblood of the tag division, and maybe even the singles division, definitely making up the crop of talent that will be the successors to even the upstarts now, so to speak. The Bret Harts, the Misawas, the Stings, the Vaders, the Rick Rudes. I think this is the next crop up, and I've got to say the mid card looks very, very solid. The Steiners in general are definitely more ready. Okay. However, I felt like this was a win that was semi-needed. Tenta is definitely, not quite where he should be yet in my eyes. I mean, especially if you look back, Tenta was, by early 90s, one of the big heels and kind of, you could maybe argue mishandled and could have been used better. Steiners are going to be dynamite no matter what, and I have no doubt that, with a sustained push in the future, they could get hot very quickly. However, I just felt like right now what we needed was a big win for these guys, albeit on the pre-show. Then we have a singles match here. Brutus just recently turned face. He was kind of languishing as a heel, and I thought that, since the face side of the roster is actually kind of, a bit more slim than the heel side, that this would be a good change for him. And I think it ultimately will be. I'm not sure whether he is worth just yet working into main feuds that will, travel pay-per-view to pay-per-view. I obviously think that Hogan would be his ticket to gaining popularity, and if I feel like it's needed, then I certainly would do it. However, there are large overarching stories right now that have kind of pushed Beefcake out of the spotlight, at least for now. Also, Guerrero here on a freelancer's contract. If I could lock him down full time, he would no doubt be someone that I would slowly want to build. And I definitely wouldn't be jobbing him here. However, obviously you can see based on his in-ring performance, and I have to say his stats are good. I just think its popularity is what did it. And sometimes whenever you have the in-ring ability but lack popularity, even losing to someone like Beefcake can be slightly beneficial in that even in a losing effort you might gain popularity. Obviously there's better ways to do it, but this is kind of a killing two stones with one bird scenario. Now we're going to move on to the main card, and Sting and the Warrior are going to start out this card, both cutting promos, and they will have singles matches coming up next. Warrior has become entangled in a feud with a newbie who I think will definitely be of interest to you, the viewers. He was definitely someone that I thought that I could make something of, even despite the fact that there is a language barrier, so to speak. And this feud I will explain in further detail once we get to the match. And you might have already seen his name, but I kind of wanted it to be a more theatrical reveal, so I won't mention who it is just yet. But I feel like the match up next will benefit both parties, and I will explain that obviously when we get to it. And then also Sting has become embroiled in a feud with Rick Rude. Man, that just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Rude had obviously, or not obviously, but I believe, if memory serves correct, he was kind of in a feud with Warrior. He had beat him in match 1. Match 2, Warrior got the best of him, and now he has decided that Sting is a kind of a way to save face if he can beat Sting, who, and I'm not sure in kayfabe if this would be a more subtle take on it, but if you look at it, from an outside perspective as a viewer, and from my perspective, the booker, Sting is the hotter hand among the Blade runners. Okay, he's been to the finals of King of the Ring, gotten a lot of title shots, has more marquee victories, whereas the Warrior is still trying to get his footing. So for Rude, someone who feels like, he is actually better than Warrior, by defeating Sting, he will have proved that the loss was a fluke. So that's kind of the motivations for these two feuds moving forward. And here is Warrior versus the mystery opponent, and it is Tenryu. And obviously here, Tenryu is still, even despite the fact that we've been trying to get him on a level to make an appearance on pay-per-view, still not quite fully ready, but he gets a big win here, and I think moving forward this will definitely benefit his popularity, which is really the only thing holding him back so far. He's a top 3 wrestler in the world, coming from, it might have been All Japan Pro Wrestling, although I think it might have been New Japan, actually, on second thought. I mean, skill-wise, this guy is awesome. He does lack the entertainment skill that Misawa has, so that is kind of, it does tie your hands while trying to deal with him and get him over, and there is a language barrier as well, which restricts what type of angles you can have him in, or what he can be, his performance can be based off of. However, as far as in-ring ability goes, he is definitely one of the best, and despite the fact that we eventually want Warrior to be one of our big stars, I felt like this was the right move. Especially, it benefits both parties. Warrior definitely lacks a lot of in-ring ability and talent, and being in the ring with Tenryu, someone who is just like a jack of all trades when it comes to in-ring ability, hopefully something rubs off on Warrior. And also this gives Tenryu some popularity so that if there is a rematch in the future, the match will be better. Then we have Sting, Rick Rude. Sting actually had tied Tenryu in the lead up to that Warrior Tenryu match, so I thought that he would be Tenryu would be in better standing for that match. Obviously that wasn't the case, and perhaps affected Sting's in-ring ability coming off of this. I know if you have been watching the series, following Sting, he is definitely, I would expect, slightly better, not, a whole heck of a lot better, but that tie rather could have dropped it, or just the fact that it was a shorter match. Nonetheless, we have a decent second match of the card slowly building, because this one is truly a doozy, and I think it's only going to ramp up from here. But obviously, Rude and Sting is a rivalry that, I think is going to have a lot of mileage moving forward. And, it kind of puts Rude in a position where he might have to face Warrior again and then maybe work his way back up to Sting. Who knows? You'll have to stay tuned and see what ends up happening moving forward, but I think it's a nice little wrinkle in the rivalry that Rick Rude has found himself on, and he's definitely starting to get a lot of face time on these pay-per-views, even though it might be lower on the card than you would want at this time. Nonetheless, he is definitely someone that I am putting a lot of resources in ever since he has been clean. And he's been clean, knock on wood, for at least, months at a time. And future champion, I think so. Sting, also, definitely, he's got world champion written all over him, and that's why we had to keep his momentum back on the right track. Then we go to Misawa, just talking about him a few moments ago, and obviously his just well-roundedness as, just all-out performer. Okay, he can tell a story in the ring, and he can cut a pretty good promo too. This guy has definitely been one of the best pickups. And I'm not sure how I was even able to really pick him up. He was unemployed, and he is loyal to All Japan. And I thought, okay, well, I'll offer him a contract, and as soon as I do, generally other promotions will offer one just because you're in a rivalry with them, so to speak. But in this case, man, I was untested. I got him for 10 years, probably about a year and a half ago, and let me tell you, the remainder of his contract is going to be quite a storied future, no doubt about it, and hopefully I can expand to the point where I don't have to worry about All Japan taking him off my hands when his contract does expire, because I'm telling you, this guy has got money written all over him, and that is why he is the IC champ. But he has quite the challenge tonight against slowly becoming one of his biggest rivalries in the WWF, the Excellence of Execution, Bret Hitman Hart, and that will certainly be a tremendous match. They have great chemistry, and they can really perform. But before we get to that match, we have a tag number 1 contenders match between the $1 Million Inc. competitors, Perfect and Race, and the Road Warriors. And here we will have Harley picking up a big win after Vader, another member of the $1 Million Inc., becomes he interjected himself into this match. So moving forward, Perfect and Harley are going to be contenders for those tag titles. And this really isn't much of a spoiler, but obviously if you saw the main event, you will understand the tag titles are not on the line tonight. The Freebirds have no chance of losing the titles. However, they are in a tremendous match and will look to be fighting for pride. And I will leave it at that. Obviously here, pretty good performance. These guys have been a, super welcome addition to the tag division. And also Hawk has just been holding down the Road Warriors. Animal, he definitely does lag behind. And if I could get Animal to hold up his end of the bargain, it would definitely benefit nearly every match they've been in. It's been a while since they've had the title, so obviously they haven't been the hottest team in the Fed. However, I can readily rely on them to put out solid matches like this. And now I could probably say the same about Harley and Perfect. And again, add some sugar and spice, something new, a new little wrinkle for the tag division, and makes it interesting. Then we are on to the long-awaited Intercontinental title match. And Misawa will defeat Brett in 19 minutes 39 seconds after Brett gets disqualified because Terry Funker comes in and attacks Misawa. Funker, a new signing, has walked through the doors, and let me tell you guys, expect the unexpected. We've been making some moves, definitely a large talent drop, so to speak, in the last, in October. So I was kind of looking to revamp, at least bring in, there are freelancers. Funk is one of them. Guerrero's one. Gordy is another. Definitely some top talent coming in until we can get more long-term guys. And there are more long-term guys. Really unsure how many are going to make it on pay-per-view. Tenru was one. There is another big one. I can't wait to unveil who he or she may be, but I think you, the viewer, will be very excited about it. Back to the match, though. These guys, this is why I build to feuds like this, Their story has been awesome. Obviously, it's not a match that I want to go to again and again and again, but I think they've already had 3 matches over the last 6 months. To me, that's not overdoing it. I will say 3 in a row is good if then you take a good break afterwards. And you will see actually that, I did have a series of matches, and I might not have let it breathe enough, but I feel like you either have to add a new wrinkle that makes it intriguing again, or just give it some time to breathe moving forward, and ultimately, that will lead to there being a more interesting wrinkle down the line. Here, I felt like the wrinkle of the IC title being involved made sense. This isn't so much as a personal rivalry as it is the competition that you might see over in Japan, where these two are truly focused on becoming the absolute best. Brett, even being a heel, is dead set on becoming a champion, and while his motivations to become a champion might be heelish, he wants to prove that he is the best. Okay, Misawa, same deal. For him, it's about proving that he is a great competitor. And I honestly, I would think if these guys were to have a series in their prime, it would have been just drop dead gorgeous, an absolute beaut. Just seeing some of Misawa's stuff online, he is definitely one of the best performers ever, and Brett is definitely one of my favorite guys, especially from the WWF. As a kid, I absolutely looked up to him. So this is definitely a super sick rivalry. 92-94, sometimes you will get a low match like this, but no complaints here. These two guys are showing exactly what they're capable of, and that they are ready to take the helm when the time is right. So Misawa's title reign already off to a very good start. Hopefully that funk little wrinkle adds to his reign moving forward. We'll have to see what comes out of that. But here we have DiBiase, who had been kind of, pitching that he wanted a match that could potentially lead to a title match down the line. Obviously, his last title match was on the last pay-per-view. It was a fatal 4-way match, and he was not the man pinned. So he definitely has some credence. There is some legitimacy to his justification for asking for a match to get back in the title picture. But He's going to have a tough opponent tonight, someone who he has a very storied past with, none other than Jake the Snake Roberts. It goes beyond WWF. I believe in, was it Mid-South, I believe, where I plucked both of them from. And now, during DiBiase's World Heavyweight title reign, Jake was, feuding with him. And then I do not believe during Jake's IC reign, Ted DiBiase was in his hair too much. So it's been a short break between their scuffling. But this one is not so much personal as it's a means to an end, so to speak. And these two will have to go through each other to get to the destination they want. And obviously, my justification, for not making it so much as a personal rivalry is because of this man here, Adrian Adonis, the king of the personal rivalry. Okay, he was the last IC title holder in a fatal four-way. He would lose it to the aforementioned Misawa. And prior to that, Jake had been the IC title holder, and Adonis had beaten him for that belt. So there's definitely a history between these two, and they had gone back and forth until a third party, or fourth party in this case, came in and was able to take the gold home while they were kind of bickering on the side, so to speak. But Adonis gets the final laugh, at least for now, costing Jake a shot at the World Heavyweight title. DiBiase will be getting a title shot down the line, and you come to expect greatness from this combination, without a doubt. 93 was definitely within the realm of possibility. I'm happy with it, and we have two distinct storylines and destinations to go to down the line. It's the way I like to tell stories, and that's the way she goes. Next, we have Roddy Piper cutting a promo only the way that he can, and we've had some tremendous promos on this card so far, DiBiase being one, follow it up with Piper, and then hopefully the MegaPowers promo after this match delivers as well. Clearly, this was the time of the talker, and he's got a gripe with the Dragon. Now, obviously, if you have not seen Armageddon, go ahead and check it out. It was the pay-per-view prior. I had been mentioning it, quite a few times. And Piper was in the main event fatal four-way match, and Steamboat was in a match with Bret the Hitman Hart. Bret would defeat Steamboat on that night as he was coming off of injury to his leg, which allowed Bret to lock on a sharpshooter and get the win. That would put him in position to face Misawa, who is a new champ, for the belt here. Then you go back further on TV. Roddy Piper was the man who injured Steamboat and kept him out of action for a month. It seemed like he had snapped his leg, but as far as the actual significance of the injury, we are not quite sure. Obviously, it hurt him going up against Bret the Hitman Hart, and we're not sure whether he is fully healed yet as he is walking into this match with the Rowdy one. So here, Piper is upset over the fact that Steamboat would try to get even with him later in that night on the main event by costing him the match. Savage would pick up a victory by pinfall over Roddy Piper, and now we have what was already a very heated rivalry becoming all the more personal, and this one is in a cage, ladies and gentlemen. And Roddy Piper is on top of the world, and I will explain to you exactly why. They Live came out just days before this pay-per-view, and he got a tremendous popularity push. He is, I think, top 3 most popular in the world 100 popularity in Canada, most popular in the U.S., and it shows. Now, obviously, with Steamboat, there is definitely, we want to keep him in the mix, okay? But right now, we have an explanation for him to be losing matches, being as though he is fighting through an injury. And, you know, this allows Piper to kind of save face, okay? And there will ultimately be a time where Piper pays the piper, okay? For lack of a better term. And has to face the charges for what he did to Steamboat. But right now, this kind of puts us where we want to be, which is, again, a line at Savage's doorstep, okay? Now, obviously, the World Heavyweight title is not on the line tonight either. The tag belts and the heavyweight title not on the line. The IC title was actually the only one on the line. And I'm perfectly comfortable doing that on a pay-per-view like this, Saturday night's main event. I think that it's a novel pay-per-view, so to speak. And this definitely would have been one of the main draws coming into this very personal rivalry. And I'm not sure that we have heard the end of what has become one of the more personal rivalries in the WWF. And Piper is just absolutely money here, and I think this big win will definitely catapult him to be in a position that we need. Expect a big push coming Piper's way, at least for the time being. So here, Steamboat, and that is a good point here, and perhaps maybe that's why Piper's rating was so good. He's definitely a brawler, so to speak, and Steamboat, even him saying this isn't his strong suit, he did pretty well. I was slightly surprised to see in the 80s, but that is a good explanation. And in cage matches, I really just felt like the stipulation was necessitated when you take into account the personal level that the rivalry had gotten to. And also, I wanted to kind of stray away from other stipulations for my own personal reasons, and maybe thinking about using them down the line if I so choose. Now here, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage are cutting a promo. In recent weeks on television, the Freebirds, who have been really on a hot streak here, said that they kind of want to transcend the tag division as a whole, and seeing as though Savage is the heavyweight champ, he really can't be a full-time tag division participant, but he can at least do one-offs, sort of like here on Saturday night's main event. And the Freebirds said they would like to challenge him to try to show that they are truly the most dominant tag team in the WWF. And Hogan had his back, and he said, look, if anyone's going to have your back to face them, it's going to be me. Me and you have showed we have the chemistry to be able to take on any foe. And this is just kind of it's following in the trend of this pay-per-view where it's kind of friendly rivalries, so to speak. Excluding the Piper Steamboat rivalry, which obviously has become very, very personal. But it's, proving grounds. People are trying to show that they deserve the respect, so on and so forth. And Hogan and Piper basically saying that, they're going to put it all on the line to pick up a win over Michael P.S. Hayes and Terry Bam Bam Gordy, and show that they are the kings of the 80s in wrestling, and they are able to do just that. And I have to say, guys, my motivation for this was that the Freebirds and the MegaPowers are absolutely dynamite. And I was like, this is going to be a killer match no doubt about it. Terry Gordy performed. I mean, he has been one of the best pickups, and when he has to leave, I'm going to be very sad, without a doubt, because the tag division is definitely at the very top, and all things considered, all right, despite the fact that the Fabulous Freebirds, the tag title holders, lose to the MegaPowers, I think it does great for, the WWF, for the Freebirds, for the tag division, for the champs. I think this was a perfect example of a win-win-win, at least through my perception. I think this is the first time that I've ever booked the tag champs in the main event. And if it's the Fabulous Freebirds, I definitely didn't think it would be. But based on how they've done so far, I'm not surprised. Okay, I coming out of the last pay-per-view, I thought, well, how do I proceed? Especially with the definitive win that the Freebirds picked up in their Fatal 4-Way match, and I thought this was the obvious answer. Now, obviously, if you're looking here, you will see that Ray Traylor was actually, interfered in the match. He distracted Terry Gordy and cost them the match. So, Fabulous Freebirds have an out, and now they also have a bone to pick with Power and Pain, Ray Traylor, and probably his tag partner, John Tenta. But again, I think this is going to be great for everyone. Obviously, I think it's going to, give Savage and Hogan a slight boost. And also, I don't think it's going to hurt the Freebirds. And it's also awesome to have them in the main event. I think it just elevates the tag division as a whole. So definitely a fitting end to this tremendous card. And let's go and see what the overall rating is. 97. Hey, I'll take it. Saturday night's main events, I think, are definitely hard to book, especially because you usually get a smaller build-up to them. Definitely tried doing a lot of, something different. Had the good singles matches, in my opinion. The Misawa match was awesome in my eyes. DiBiase match, and also the Piper match. Then the main event definitely killed it, which is what I expected, and it did not disappoint. I hope it did not disappoint you either. If it did not, or if you enjoyed rather, like and subscribe, and I will catch y'all on the flippity flip.